Good Monday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us on the platform. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. It's great to be with you on a Monday. Crazy to think it's Monday, April 12th already. A lot we're going to cover in the program. We're going to talk Americans eating more snacks, yes, snacks, than ever before. Certainly a result of being quarantined and being at home more than ever before. We'll talk about trends we continue to see from a cannabis standpoint. This one now in Richmond, a drive-through dispensary. We have that story for you. Saturday was cause for celebration. 4.6 million doses in people's arms on Saturday. The most doses in a single day to get in arms in our country in one 24-hour period. We will celebrate that. We're going to celebrate Uber and Lyft, two stocks that I own, and Uber and Lyft seeing pops in both their performances. As people get back outside, some of these reopening stocks are going to continue to pop, and continue to pop. We saw that with Kohl's, another position I have, as folks are getting back to that treasure hunting experience of going to a store, unsure what they're about to buy, but willing to dig through shelves and hangers and racks to find that 1995 mystery garment that's going to put a smile on their face. Tony Bennett has two transfers that he's going to have to deal with for the next few years. Justin McCoy in Chapel Hill, Casey Marcel and Raleigh. We'll take a look at how that could impact the Virginia basketball program. In Tony Bennett, I believe. In Tony Bennett, we all believe. And that's something that I'm going to continue. But Marcel going to NC State and McCoy to UNC, man, you never like the transfers to stay within the conference when you may see them one, maybe two, maybe three times per year if you include the ACC tournament. Heck, maybe four times per year. I mean, there's been times when Virginia basketball has seen one team four times. I'm not saying it happens on an everyday occurrence, but it can happen. We are live across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. We're grateful to connect with you on the platform. First, some positivity. The United States reported 4.6 million people got vaccinated on Saturday. That is a new single-day record. It's worth repeating. This past Saturday, 4.6 million Americans got this COVID vaccination in their arm, 4.6 million. That set a new record for a one-day, single-day period. That brings the daily average of doses administered over the past week to 3.1 million. That's the daily average over the course of the week. That's good news. Here's the tough news. The tough news is America is reporting 70,000 new corona cases per day, a level in line with the summer 2020 surge. So cases are spiking. The positive is doses are getting out super quickly. It's no secret why cases are spiking. It was Easter. It was the weather's getting warmer. People are getting more confident than ever to go outside, to patronize their favorite restaurants, their favorite shops, breweries, wineries. These are factors that can be expected to drive an uptick in cases. The positive is the doses are getting out in people's arms, and herd immunity is becoming more of a reality. So on a Saturday, this past one, when 4.6 million people got doses in their arms, a single-day record, this past weekend also saw 70,000 new coronavirus cases per day, an uptick in cases last seen in summer 2020. We thought this was going to be coming. You thought this was going to be coming. We all thought this was going to be coming with Easter, with spring, with summer on the horizon, and with people chomping at the bit to get outside and to spend the money that we've saved. The positive of this is the fact that we're inching closer and closer to herd immunity. That's a trend we will follow closely. I will always focus on doses first, then then cases, then hospitalizations, in that order. The next headline, I think, is one that I found very intriguing. This one tied to snacks, consumption standpoint by Americans. Americans are eating more snacks than ever. PepsiCo, in fact, released some data. Pepsi Company, a company that owns a number of brands that you have on the shelves, brands that you have in your refrigerator, brands that you drink and eat alike. PepsiCo said that its fourth quarter net revenue at Frito-Lay North America increased 5% on a year-over-year basis to $5.4 billion for Q4 2020. The company produces more than 1,200 different types of snacks, including Cheetos, Doritos, Lay's potato chips, Smartfood, and Ruffles. North American sales of savory snacks like chips, popcorn, pretzels climbed to $57 billion in 2020, an 11% increase over 2019. Americans love their snacks. Americans stuck at home will eat more snacks than ever before. This is why I'm bringing this to you. Folks, what have we been doing in the year 2020 and the early parts of Q1 2021 while sitting at home? This is what we've been doing, okay? We haven't been spending as much money, so we're saving more money than ever. We are streaming Netflix and live streaming content more than ever before. So much so that Xfinity, the folks we are forced to utilize at our home because we don't have the luxury of Ting, crazy fast internet, which we have at our studio. If I had the luxury of having Ting at home, I would be chomping at the bit for Ting at my crib because I see the value of Ting, crazy fast internet, at our studio. We have Xfinity at our house. I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's happened to our family. Xfinity is trying to make more money. So the fine folks at Xfinity, and I use that term loosely, have sent us all a letter in the mail, and they've also notified us via our bill, our invoice. They are actually going to start throttling back streaming and internet usage, and we will have to pay to play for unlimited or buku streaming. Now here's the interesting thing. Xfinity waited until a global pandemic. And when Xfinity had a global pandemic on its hands, it realized Americans were streaming and utilizing its internet more than ever before. So the monopoly that is Xfinity said, we have Americans and internet users right where we need them. They need ISPs and streaming more than they ever have because mom and dad are at home, Susie and Johnny are in school from home, and where they're not at home working and learning, they're forced to stay on the couch and stream content and movies because they can't leave the house due to COVID. So Xfinity said, let's send them a letter, essentially extort them out of more money because they're forced to use our ISP to work, learn, and play during this thing we called COVID. So next month, Xfinity, all Xfinity users will have their data throttled at a certain threshold. Be mindful of your invoice. Look at your invoice. Study your invoice because that hits on May 1. You got a company that is essentially a monopoly, not as much a monopoly as Dominion Power per se, but very much a monopoly in Xfinity, and they say to Americans, you need us more than ever before. We're going to throttle your usage over a certain level and then tax you and charge you more money once you surpass that threshold. Study your invoice. Look at it ASAP, today or tomorrow, because you're about to get popped, and that pop starts on May 1. So what have we used more than ever? Internet, live streaming, our Peloton bikes, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. Snacks. I just let you know that Americans are eating more snacks than they ever have in the history of snacking in this country. How about booze? How many of us are having cocktails and beers and wines at clips we did not enjoy before? How many of us are going to have trouble going back to happy hour in those 2.5 finger wine pours, or those 1.5 shot neat or mixed drink pours, when we've been used to having the 4-finger wine pours, the 3 shots in the cocktail, or the beer that wasn't a 16-ounce pint, maybe it was a 24-ounce big glass that we save for those tough days. Streaming, television, Peloton bikes, Amazon Prime, snacks, booze, all at record clips because of COVID. Now, what's going to happen as we get out of this thing we called quarantine, as we get back to the new normal? Well, I think positions, and I'm not giving you stock advice, I'm just doing what I'm doing for my personal portfolio. I am not giving you stock advice. This is just one man and how he invests his money, okay? I have to say that from a legal standpoint. I think the popularity and the momentum behind people sitting at home on a $3,000 or $4,000 Peloton bike and doing a 1-hour workout by themselves in their house, I think that momentum will taper off. I think the momentum of us live streaming content on Prime, on HBO Max, on Netflix, on Peacock, that momentum will get headwinds and taper off. I think this trend that we're seeing from PepsiCo, that Americans are snacking at clips that they've never snacked before, that momentum will taper off. I think the momentum of us boozing at ridiculously high clips, that momentum at home will taper off. How many of us have put on a COVID 10 or a COVID 15 pounds or a COVID 20 pounds? How many of us have put on the extra weight because the last 13 or 14 months have us sitting at our tail on our couch, eating and drinking and not working out at the same frequency or with the same fervor we once worked out, right? Many of us can raise our hands, right? I think the momentum of getting back in person or outside or running or jogging or going to a gym or a group exercise scenario, that momentum is going to uptick. I see Americans buying workout clothes and workout shoes, and I see Americans going back to those treasure hunting experiences we saw at Marshall's and at Kohl's and at TJ Maxx. So much so that I bought Kohl's, the stock position, about 45 days ago or so. Since making that purchase, and I'm literally queuing it up right now, the position is up 32%. I expect the position to continue to uptick as we feel more comfortable going back to the storefronts and digging and enjoying that treasure hunt experience that we all, certainly moms, have enjoyed and liked. Look at Kohl's. Symbol KSS. Consider Uber and Lyft. As Americans get back to street corners, use these darn things and want to get in a car that's a little safer than a bus or a taxi or a trolley. I expect Kohl's, Uber, and Lyft to all pop. And speaking of Uber, Uber is already flirting with cannabis delivery. More on that in a moment. Before I get to Uber and cannabis delivery, how about the Richmond, Virginia dispensary that's taking over a KFC in Short Pump. Greenleaf Medical is the name of the dispensary. It's a Maryland-based company that built and runs the Richmond region's first and thus far only medical cannabis production facility on the south side of Richmond. Earlier this week, Greenleaf Medical signed a lease for its first satellite retail dispensary in the area. It's in Short Pump. The lease is a former Kentucky Fried Chicken location. The concept for Greenleaf Medical is for folks to go to this dispensary, the old KFC, where people are used to getting a KFC chicken bucket with some buttermilk biscuits, with some collard greens, some mac and cheese, and some chicken legs. Instead of getting a buttermilk biscuit bucket with some KFC fried chicken and some collard greens, they're now going to go to Greenleaf Medical Dispensary and get a heady bucket of shrubbery, of landscaping, of hippie lettuce, of greens, of weed, of some marijuana. This literally is happening, guys. I can't make this up. It's literally happening right now. So you got to ask me this, Jerry, why are you bringing this up? It's happening in Richmond. What happens in Richmond, what happens in D.C., what happens on the West Coast happens before Charlottesville. And then Charlottesville, a little slower to adapt, Central Virginia, a little slower to adapt, will embrace these strategies and weave them into the Central Virginia economic landscape. So 50 minutes from Charlottesville, Virginia, 45 minutes depending on where you live, a KFC is being converted through a drive-through dispensary. There's going to be a menu. Instead of ordering 8 chicken legs, some buttermilk biscuits, some mac and cheese, and some collard greens, you're going to order 4 or 5 different strands of shrub on a menu through a speaker with a person having a headset. You're not going to leave your car. You're going to order at that menu. You're going to pull around the bend. You're going to give them your card or some cash, and then they're going to give you a bag of nuggets. That literally is going to happen in Richmond, in Short Pump. And I'm going to say it once. I'm going to say it again. Charlottesville and Central Virginia, Albemarle County, Fluvanna, Orange, and Greene, Nelson, Goochland, and all the areas in between. Get ready. The most concerning thing I have about this trend is big brands from outside the area gaining the experience from working with municipalities like Short Pump, Oregon, California, and Colorado. Did you know in Oregon, California, and Colorado, cannabis delivery is already a reality? Literally, it's already a reality. And here we're hearing on CNBC today, another reason to invest in Uber, which we have, that Uber is going to get into the cannabis delivery game. That means you're not even going to have to get off your couch at your house. You can use your app on your phone. You can order a heady sandwich, some heady cookies. You can order a heady Kool-Aid or a heady orange soda. And then you can order a bag of headies, and they all get delivered by the same driver to your door. And you can continue watching American Idol, House of Cards. You can continue watching whatever the hell is on the television. And you don't even have to leave your apartment, your house, your condo, your townhome, your office. We're not hearing about this stuff because we're in a small town. It's already a reality in Oregon, California, and Colorado. In Richmond, it's becoming a reality before our very eyes. Let's keep our ears open. Drive-through cannabis. I never thought I would see drive-through cannabis. COVID-19 has put tailwinds behind this plant because of the tax revenue that's generated. Two more headlines before we get to Keith Smith. And how about 4.6 million doses in people's arms on Saturday, a single-day record? That is cause for applause. 4.6 million doses in American arms on Saturday in a 24-hour period is cause for applause. Two other topics we need to cover, two other topics that slightly worry me, are Justin McCoy transferring from UVA basketball to UNC Chapel Hill. That's a hell of a get by newly minted basketball coach Hubert Davis. Casey Morsell transferring to NC State to continue his career in Raleigh. Casey Morsell, look, I know in 2 years in Charlottesville, Casey Morsell could not throw the ball into the ocean. The young man just could not find his jump shot. But if somehow the coaches in Raleigh can get Casey Morsell with a legitimate jump shot, this guy reminds me of Russell Westbrook Jr. He's built like a man. I mean, he's physically gifted. The reason he was able to play basketball in those 2 years despite shooting so poorly for Tony Bennett is because the guy gets after it defensively. He can play the 2 guard, he can play some 3 guard, he can play some 3, and he can spell the point guard at times. So he legitimately can play 3 positions. He legitimately can guard 3 positions. Casey Morsell can hit the glass offensive and defensively really strongly. He can get out on the floor and he runs like a gazelle in transition. If Morsell can find a jump shot, he's going to be a key contributor to NC State. And how about Justin McCoy? We don't truly know how good Justin McCoy can be. He never got a shot to play because the front court was the strength in Charlottesville. But the times I saw Justin McCoy play for Tony Bennett, I saw a kid or I saw a young man with a tremendous motor. A guy who got after it on defense, a guy who was a force to be reckoned on the offensive rebounding side, a guy who also struggled with his jump shot, but whose energy could not be, was prevalent. We saw his energy every time he was on the floor. The thing that stings me about this is they're transferring within the conference. I don't blame the young men. In fact, I don't blame anyone besides the NCAA. The NCAA better figure out this transfer portal mess. Because having a transfer portal like we have now is just a recipe for disaster. And one more thing on transfers, okay? There are some universities that are built better, their programs for accommodating transfers. These blue bloods, these big-time programs like the Duke and the UNCs and the Kansases and the Kentuckys, they are very much better built for a one-and-done type of athlete. An athlete that could go to the program for 1 year, contribute, take them to the NCAA tournament, and then they turn pro. Or a transfer that comes over with limited eligibility and can contribute right away. Coach Bennett's program, this pack line defense, this program is built around people being in the program for years, understanding the nuances of the defense, understanding the expectations of Coach Bennett and what he expects from his players. It's not a program or it's not a system that you can pick up immediately. When we had our most success, Virginia basketball, is with guys like Kyle Guy, Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, Jay Huff, Malcolm Brogdon, Joe Harris, athletes that spent years in Tony Bennett's program. This past team that got bounced in the first round of the NCAA tournament, its best players, Sam Hauser, its best players, Trey Murphy, 3 sticks, new to the program. Transfers that weren't in the program from first year, day one, the first time they stepped foot on a college campus or college grounds. It worries me relying on transfers. Now, the kid we got from Indiana, he's going to be a welcome addition to our backcourt because, folks, right now our backcourt, before we got the Indiana transfer, is Kie Clark, who I love, and Reese Beekman, who has tremendous upside. But neither Beekman nor Kie Clark are great shooters, and no one can argue with that statement. No one. So getting getting this Indiana transfer, a guy that can play both guard spots and is a good shooter, we needed it. That being said, Coach Bennett's program is one where you groom the athlete from day one, and we teach them the nuances of the pack line defense and what's expected of this program. The one and done mentality is difficult in Charlottesville with this system. All right, let me reach out to Keith Smith here, Judah Wickower, the distinguished gentleman, the star of Real Talk. Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network. We have Sean Tubbs and Neil Williamson on this Friday's show. This Friday's show, Sean Tubbs and Neil Williamson. Should be a fantastic show for Real Talk. Tomorrow, it's going to be Keith Smith and myself on Real Talk. J-Dubs, we got Keith Smith on the line. It's good to connect with the distinguished gentleman. Keith, you are live for the I Love CVille network. How was the weekend?
Weekend was great. As you know, I've got my 2 daughters in and my 2 grandbabies in visiting us. So we got a packed house, man. Just like you were talking about on the basketball. I'll tell you, every time that I listen to you speak about sports, I realize how much I don't know. Right. I mean, last 10 minutes or however long it was, I just got all the knowledge I needed to know about UVA basketball. So thanks for doing that.
Our pleasure. Sports was the first taste of broadcasting I got, guys, 20 plus years ago, which is shocking to say. Started behind a microphone while a student at the University of Virginia. All right, so Keith, the show is yours. 4.6 million doses in people's arms, a single-day record. Yes, sir. Cause for applause here. I know that makes you happy as well, my friend.
It does. You know, I think that, you know, as the more shots in the arm, the better we're going to get. I wasn't happy to hear about the uptick, but you called it spot on. I think it's a kind of a double-edged sword, right? As folks get shots in their arm, their confidence goes up. They want to go out. I'm going to pick up my youngest daughter from Dulles tonight, and her husband's family, her father-in-law, is a pilot for United, so she flies on standby. This is the first time she got the last available seat from Seattle to Washington, which over the last 12 months, or, you know, that's not a normal occurrence now. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It's great to hear it. You know, by the other hand, we're going to get a little bit of this spike that you're speaking of. I do want to share something with you on your broadband, a little bit of knowledge to share to you and your viewers and your listeners. I had can't give you too many details, but I had a really good conversation this morning with some folks at Fluvanna County Administration. And Fluvanna County, Louisa, are working with Dominion and Firefly, and there's going to be, hopefully the end of this month, what's called an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to get Dominion in this game. I think Dominion is kind of realizing it, my interpretation, they're missing the ball on this, and CVEC and all these other cooperatives are kind of taking them to the cleaners on running this broadband in their easements. So if Fluvanna and Louisa are doing it, hopefully Albemarle County is next. So, you know, we've been talking about these outside counties really are getting it on this infrastructure, I think. So it's a little interesting piece of information.
At your house, which internet provider do you have?
You don't want to know.
Is it Comcast?
It is Comcast.
Okay, that's what we have too.
Yeah.
Did you get the letter in the mail that they were going to start throttling? You got that as well? I mean, they basically know, and I'm not a huge fan of Comcast or Xfinity, right? They basically know our backs are against the wall, and they see an opportunity to monetize us.
We're very lucky at the lake, right? The infrastructure for fiber is going in the ground. I think by the time that this process happens, we will have fiber to a house. But I mean, we talked about it on the way in today. I could have stayed at home, worked from home today, but I drove into our office because I've got Ting.
Right.
And because I can't rely on the network to call in on an interview. It's just disastrous. So, yeah.
It's Keith. It's the same for me. I would love nothing else to create a pretty reliable satellite studio at my house.
Sure.
But and everyone asks, what's the first key thing to doing what you're doing? Because people want to,
Sure.
host a podcast. The first thing I tell everybody, if you don't have Ting or fiber, you're not going to be able to do this on an everyday basis.
No way. And we're a prime example of that. We've tried this a couple of times, and it just fails miserably. And my understanding of it, and this is your world, but I know enough what happens with Comcast or the cable is it's a matter of how many people are on it, right? And it slows down. The more people are on it, the less people it speeds up. Seems to be the case. But, with COVID and all, people are working from home, and I don't see that ever changing. I think, we talk about this all the time, this hybrid work at home. I had a client this weekend that is moving down from Northern Virginia, working for a local tech company. And the bottom line is he's only has to go into the office once a week. He works from home. And we're out trying to find fiber internet that matches his price point that he needs to be in, which is kind of difficult to do, frankly.
You'll get a kick out of this, and you've heard this constantly. We have a home 3 doors down from us, new family moving in. I'm gonna give you the whole story here, and you're gonna be like, because you deal with this a lot more than I do.
I'm gonna take a sip of coffee while you're talking.
This is what you deal with constantly. Okay, so they got 2 kids. They're in Northern Virginia. They got a townhome, a 3-level townhome in Northern Virginia, $1.3 million for 1,650 square feet. They went under contract at a home in my neighborhood in February. They said, we want our kids to finish the spring semester in Northern Virginia, so they're going to stay there. They're paying the mortgage for March, April, and May at the new house in my neighborhood. Still, they're doing a rent back at their townhome in D.C., so they've already sold it for 1.3. I think they bought it for just under $800K. And then they're renting it back so their kids can finish school. Then they're going to come here to Central Virginia with essentially darn near close to $500,000, call it $400K in profit, $400,000 in profit after you include the rent back, the closing costs, the commission,
Sure.
as you know. Okay, $400K is a hell of a lot of money in a bag. And the husband only has to go, both parents work for Northern Virginia firms. The wife never has to go back to work.
Yeah.
The husband
into a physical
location. The husband only is expected to go back to work 1 9 to 6:30 slot per 30 days. The rest of the time they're working in my neighborhood. So, dude, they come down with the $400,000 bag of money. They go from 1,600 plus square feet to 5,000 square feet, right? They have a backyard, a park, and all the amenities outside, and the dad only has to go to work 1 9 to 6:30 slot per 30 days. The mom never has to go back to work in person again.
Welcome to the new reality.
Your show is yours, Keith Smith.
Yeah, well, I smiled real quickly because you just threw out, dude. I watched The Big Lebowski last night, so great movie.
It's a great movie.
Don't get me started on it. Kind of remind you were talking about weed here, and I was kind of went that way. Look, it's the reality of it is, but we're dealing with clients like that all the time, and what we do, and we noted, and we did this as an industry. When we first started this a year ago, we adapt and overcome. United States Marine Corps, adapt and overcome. But you're talking about somebody in the upper level price points, right? This same problem or this same struggle is at the entry level too, because they're allowed to work. And that's why Fluvanna County and Louisa, which might have some of the lower price point homes, right, are trying to solve this problem because they realize that this is where the trend is going. These rural counties are very much so in front of this turn. We talk about Nelson and our dear friend Jesse Rutherford all the time, but they got in front of this 5 or 10 years ago. Now, nobody predicted COVID, but what it did is it took the trend and just blew it up to this great explosion. But you're 100% right. It's what I heard is a very typical transaction these days. Very typical.
Are you so fiber's coming to Lake Monticello?
Oh yeah, it's the whole county.
Okay, so the whole county. I mean, the same impact for the county that we saw with Nelson. Is that what your prediction?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think they're about a year ahead of us. I think Nelson is looking at 2023. We're roughly 2024. But all our urban area, well, so-called our high density, Lake Monticello, Zion's Crossroads, will have it done within the next 12 to 24 months.
That is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's on the right track. Another interesting thing that you were just following some of your notes from your monologue or your entry here. The Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, as you know, is part of the cigarette tax group, right? It's actually going to funnel it through it. And if you don't think that's being set up to tax marijuana, I mean, that everybody is seeing that as because cigarette sales are decreasing drastically, right? In my opinion, as it should.
Yes.
But that I don't want to. If you want to smoke, God love you, God bless you. But what'll happen here as that comes down and the cannabis starts going up, this tax revenue will go ahead and help the local economies recover from the shellacking.
He's exactly right, and I can't believe we're about to say what we're about to say here. Marijuana sales, that revenue is going to go to your children in schools.
That's
and
exactly
helping schools. Cannabis sales and the tax from cannabis will go to schools and improving them. Here's my fear, and I was talking with a local guy here about this. Local guys come on the network. We don't need to talk about. We don't use the name here. The fear is, and you're a businessman and you see this. The fear is that this tax rate is going to be so high. They're talking plus 30% here. That this tax rate is going to be so high that Keith is just going to 100% squeeze out the little guy and the local business.
Or the underground sales just will keep on going. Right?
The black market sales.
Oh, without doubt. Yeah. I mean, as you know, I've spent a little bit of time behind the Iron Curtain the first half of the 80s, and it's amazing what I could have gotten with a bottle of Johnny Walker Red over there. So the black market, it won't go away. I think, I may be wrong, but if they make it too expensive, I suspect the black market will go away. And then how do you enforce it? And it just becomes this whole thing. But it will bring in revenue. There will be revenue, but I wouldn't suspect the black market to go away that easily, personally.
Because you do consulting for commercial, and you know how they build the shopping centers around like the first type of tenants they try to get are ones that can create trickle over traffic for the rest of the centers.
An anchor.
Yeah, anchor tenant, right. So you get like your Wegmans, your Teeters, your Krogers, and then you're trying to get like, right after an anchor tenant, you're trying to get like a Panera Bread or a Chick-fil-A or a Starbucks that has massive traffic. Are we eventually going to be seeing anchor tenants like your groceries and your Paneras, your Starbucks and your Chick-fil-A's? Some of these anchor tenants being cannabis retail?
Well, my gut tells me no.
Oh, how come?
I just don't think it's going to be that kind of a volume,
okay,
right? To go ahead and do that. But what'll happen is you're 100% right. It'll support of it. So you'll have a Whole Foods or something like this, right? And then they'll be supporting supporting it. The best way to do this is to go look at, and it's a great thought, and I actually will ask my daughter this, but take a look how it's going in Seattle, how's it going in Portland, right? How is that end of it going? But it's funny you should mention commercial, because it was on my mind on the way in today. My commercial business has been picking up in the last 2 weeks. It's done a 180.
How so?
Went from no, it's just more people are asking me for finding rental spaces, commercial to purchase. That seems to be raising up a little bit. And then, of course, the development end of it on the periphery is been increasing and will continue to increase. But it's very interesting. The retail, this retail business, for lack of a better term, has been upped up. Now, I don't do a ton of it, but it went from 0 in 2020 to 3 or 4 transactions I'm working on at the moment. So I think you're starting to see this turn a little bit from my perspective.
How's the residential market?
As I sighed, it's the same as everything else. I just did a quick numbers over the weekend from Friday today. 44 homes went into active. This is this radius we talk about all the time. I'm including Waynesboro and Augusta in it, all our jurisdictions. 56 went pending in the same period of time. Actually, I feel good about that. It's kind of close to parity, right? Close to par. But then if I drilled into it a little bit, Lake Monticello is still around. It's as of 5 minutes ago, was 10 homes, and out of those 10 homes, only 3 or 4 of them were in this 0 to 350 range. So the inventory is anemic still, but it seems to be trying to kickstart a little bit. It's just this takes a lot of when we help buyers, it's just a lot of adapting and overcome and perseverance, and we're getting there.
Let me throw this to you. Elected officials, we're talking our supervisors and our counselors across the counties and across the city. How much do they consider the inventory pinch?
It's a funny question. That's a great question.
Do they know those stats?
They do, because I talk to them all
Okay.
the time. But I had an interesting conversation with an administrator in a rural county, and exact words to me was, please bring us some rooftops, right? So they know I do consulting for folks to do residential developments or commercial developments and stuff like that. I got to tell you, I can't remember the last time I had an administrator say that to me, ever, in 30 years, 35 years of doing this. So at the administration level, they get it, right? Please bring us rooftops. Now, that's a pretty open-ended question or comment or statement. But the fact that they made that statement is very unique. So I think I can speak to the elected officials that attend the Regional Housing Partnership and the things that I'm part of. They know this because I'm telling them this on a regular basis. The ones who don't attend, and if you watch some of the live or the county Board of Supervisors meetings, and I won't name names because we don't do that, but you can tell who's taken the time to educate themselves and talk to the stakeholders and talk to the experts, and the ones who have not.
There you go. I'm excited for Friday's show. Give us a preview for the week for Real Talk.
So tomorrow we're going to continue this Mythbusters real estate thing. I'm really looking forward to it. I love the time when it's just you and me. I just love it. I have a ton of fun doing that. But on Friday we have a bit of a rock star panel coming. We've got Neil Williams and Sean Tubbs coming. They're going to be in the studio with us, and we're going to continue this conversation about invisible walls and missing middle, and how we can actually, we meaning the elected officials, and we as a community can try to increase this inventory collectively. So that's as you know, that was a big gets, and I'm super excited about it. And thank you to you, because you were part of helping that. So I'm
excited for both shows. Tomorrow 10:15, yep. Real Talk, and Friday 10:15, Neil Williamson and Sean Tubbs. Keith, hell of a job today.
Hey man, thank you. I love being with you at any format. I prefer it in person, but this works just as well. So thank you, guys.
This went well. You have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow. See you, buddy. Keith Smith, boys and girls. Kelly Jackson just sent me a Facebook message. Thank you, KJ. Kelly Jackson of Women Changing Our World. She says, JCPenney is giving Johnson & Johnson shots today. Anyone can walk in if you're interested, and you can get a Johnson & Johnson shot today at JCPenney. I'll give some background on that as well. Thank you, Kelly Jackson, for that tip. Kelly Jackson of Women Changing Our World. She says JCPenney is giving Johnson & Johnson shots today. Guys, I'll relay my story to you. I went into the grocery store, into Giant, the grocery store, Giant, for a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. Speaking of snacks, I love Cool Ranch Doritos. I go in for a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, randomly stop by the pharmacy and say, do you have any vaccines? They said, sir, sit down. We'll give you a vaccine in 5 minutes. That easy. Literally was that easy. Went into a grocery store to buy a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. 25 minutes later, I'm vaccinated. Just go by any of the pharmacies and ask the pharmacist, do you have any shots available? And the likelihood of you getting a vaccine is pretty damn high. Our friend Kelly Jackson is saying if you walk into JCPenney today, you get the best one, the one shot, Johnson & Johnson, in your arm, and anyone can walk in. They're not even asking what classification you are, what you do for work, if you have any health issues. They're just putting doses in people's arms. So the comment that I'm hearing or seeing on social, I can't find a vaccine, I'm having a hard time believing it, because they're out there and they're readily available. I mean, JCPenney, you get the best one. All right, that's the show. It's an abbreviated version of the I Love CVille show today. We are humming. We are humming at our businesses here. They are humming. Tomorrow is Real Talk at 10:15 a.m. Tomorrow, more insight from us in our push, in my push for Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. I have a couple of meetings lined up, some information lined up to give you soon on the PAC that we're creating for fundraising for our push for Board of Supervisors. You got to create a PAC. So a lot to come, including our Political Action Committee. That's the show on a Monday. Thank you for joining us across the country, the Commonwealth, and Central Virginia on the I Love CVille Network. Take care. JCPenney giving away the Johnson & Johnson. I mean, that's the best one. That's what everybody